Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My plan for this playlist, which is really a small playlist with just 3 or 4 videos, is to explain how to use RSA algorithm with public key and private key for JWT token authentication and authorization. But if we want to talk about asymmetric encryption, first we need to know what is encryption. What is encoding? What is the difference between encryption, encoding, hashing, signing, and validating? Then I decided to create this video. It is an introductory video about the basics. We are not going to even open the Visual Studio. We will just talk about some concepts over this PowerPoint presentation. And in the next videos, we will just have a deep dive into the code and see how it works and what is the benefit of using each of them. Let's start with talking about encoding. Let me turn on my laser. Yes, encoding. Encoding is nothing really special. You have a data and this data should be displayed somehow in another way. Like when you have one string, it has some characters in it. If you want to just show how it is going to be presented, if we want to see the byte presentation of that, it is an encoding. Or if we want to see what is the representation of base 64 string of a value, it is an encoding. You may heard of different encodings for video files. The thing that you see is the same. The concept, the content is the same, but the encoding is different. The way that you save it is different, but the output is the same. Let me correct myself. The content is not the same, but the output is the same. Encoding is really easy. We have so many encoding algorithms and most of them are not really complicated algorithms. They just change the content and the way that we represent the content based on the output that you want. We usually use base 64 encoding. This is the file and this is the result. We can encode something and show, imagine this one is a string, and we can encode it to show it base 64 string. And now we have a base 64 string and we can ask it to just show me the normal string. Let's talk about encrypting. In encryption, we have a key. The goal for encryption is somehow encrypt the data, make a cipher out of that, which means by reading the end result of an encryption, you will have no clue about what is the file about, what are the content, and what is the output of the file. For doing that, we usually use a key. This key is the secret. It is like a door that you open it and no one can see what is behind that. This key can open this door of the encryption for you or close the door. We use the key for encrypting the file using the algorithm and creating the encrypted file. And we use exactly the same key for decrypting the file. Just be careful that you shouldn't share this key with anyone. Can you remember that I created a video about JWT and I told you that we can have one authentication server and other APIs, other projects, they can just validate this token using this key. And at that video, I told you I'm going to use the key and share it between the authentication server and the rest of the APIs, but it is not a good idea. You should use public and private key. But in encryption, I said, okay, it is just one key. Then how can I do that? Yeah. We will see that in the next slide. We have two types of encryption. The first type is symmetric encryption. This symmetric encryption, we have a key as I explained. We have the data that we want to encrypt using the algorithm and the key. We will create the encrypted file. And this process is called encryption. For decryption, we use exactly the same key to generate the file again out of the encrypted file, and we call it decryption. We have asymmetric encryption as well. In this type of encryption, we have a public key for encrypting everything, for locking the door, for creating an encrypted file out of a normal file, and we call this process encryption. And we will have a private key. Private key is the key that you shouldn't share with anyone, as the name suggests. And just using the private key, you can decrypt the encrypted file and realize what was the real content of the file. And we call it decryption. Keep it in mind that encoding and encryption, they are two-way algorithm, which means that you can encrypt something and then decrypt it. You can encode something and then decode it. But we have another algorithm, which is hashing. For hashing, using an algorithm, we just created a hash file out of, or hash data out of the data that we have. You cannot revert it. It is one-way algorithm. Why do I need a one-way algorithm? Is there any scenario that I want to hash something and cannot unhash it or dehash it? I'm not sure what is the word for that. Yes, when you are working with passwords. When we are saving a password, we are not usually save the password. We just save the hash form of the password, because you may use that specific password for all your accounts, which is not suggested. Then if we save it in the database, if our database admin goes rogue and started using the username and a password of my customers, then we usually hash the password and save it inside the database. And in most of the security algorithms, it is suggested, instead of using a key, use a hash form of the key. All these algorithms, encryption, encoding, and hashing, they are one-to-one algorithm, which means that if you hash a data with an algorithm millions of times, the result will be the same. If you encrypt a data with a key millions of times, the result will be the same. If you encode one string, the result will be the same. These kind of algorithms are called one-to-one algorithm, because for one input, it always generates the same one output. It was all for this session. In the next session, we will have a deep dive into the code and see how encryption, asymmetry, and symmetric encryption works. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video and hit the bell. Talk to you soon.